care about you and your family and repair your vehicle to factory standards. We handle your claim from start to finish and provide a free loaner car. Stop by for a free estimate. Eustace Body Shop, just south of 88th and Highway 2.
The most recommended Eustace Body Shop. That's who we are.
At Fairway Meat Market, your family. And as part of the family, they want to save you money in your meat and groceries. Now, through March 10th, enjoy USDA Choice T-bone steaks for $8.99 per pound, all natural St. Louis-style ribs for $1.99 per pound, USDA Choice whole beef brisket for $3.99 per pound, and all the way to St. Patrick's Day, fresh Reuben bratwursts are back. That's all at Fairway Meat Market in the Rockledge Square Shopping Center, just south of 84th and Van Dorn.
Basketball fans know assists are crucial to winning. The skill of setting up others is an art. And one Nebraskan team that takes that art to a new level, it's Platte Valley Equipment. Their team always sets you up for land care success with sound advice and John Deere equipment. And Platte Valley always delivers low monthly payments. That's one assist that's a slam dunk. Visit PlatteValleyEquipment.com. Proud sponsor of the 2024 NSAA Boys and Girls High School State Basketball Tournament.
Live from the heart of Lincoln, America, welcome to Ticket Weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hello and welcome into the Daily Nebraskan Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. I'm Ben Droz, one of the sports writers at the Daily Nebraskan, and I'm joined here by Joseph Meyer.
Yes, sir.
Once again, second day in a row.
Second day in a row. It's been a while since we've done a back-to-back show with just me and you.
Yeah. Well, for this first segment, we're joined by Ben Beecham on the Allo VIP line. Ben, do we got you?
Yeah.
Awesome. So in this first segment, we are wanting to kind of preview the women's basketball game that is going to be tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Big Ten tournament.
Yes. Big game. Nebraska, last time out, lost a close game to Illinois. Ben, can you kind of just talk about that game? And what do you think the effect of Nebraska losing to Illinois, not having the double bye, how much do you think that's going to affect this team, just first off?
Yeah, they started kind of slow in that game. They let Illinois get out to a big lead, and then they went on a run, took back the lead, but they just let Illinois go on these long runs. Even late in the game, they had a sizable lead going into the final minutes, but they went cold for the last 4 minutes and let Illinois score unanswered to end the game. And not having the double bye, it does suck, but I think having a tune-up game before maybe playing Michigan State could have some upside.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough loss, right? Like, to have that opportunity for the double bye, similar to what the men's team is going to have this weekend, of sitting on that final Sunday, you win and you get into the double bye, and to fall short there were so many opportunities there at the end for Nebraska to beat Illinois, and they just couldn't pull through. But Ben, I know you did a preview of the Big Ten tournament, kind of looking at Nebraska's potential matchups, looking at what they need to do to maybe improve their seed. But you kind of touched on a little bit of how Nebraska is going to use that sour note that they ended on and, using that as a learning opportunity going forward. What makes you think that that's kind of going to be the impetus going forward as like a motivating factor for the team?
Yeah, Amy Williams in a press conference on Tuesday said that they're kind of seeing the postseason as something completely new. Like, they're obviously going to take what they've learned from these past few games, but going forward, they're 0-0, and they just need to win the games that are in front of them, and they can't worry about the games that they lost.
Were there any other big takeaways? I know a couple players spoke. Williams spoke as well. I believe Markowski, Potts, and Shelley spoke. Any other big takeaways from what you heard from them? I know they kind of just previewed, but anything specific that you took away from that?
I think they're just ready to go out there and play. They're ready to go out there and prove themselves. They've had some highs and lows, but they're ready to go out and prove that they can beat some of the best teams in the country and that they are maybe one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah, just ask Caitlin Clark about that.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a team that can beat anyone.
Yeah, we've seen some of the highs, but I just feel like this team has kind of struggled with, I don't want to say consistency, because Nebraska's been really good at beating the teams that they should beat. I just think they've been inconsistent against the top teams. They can go and beat a team like Iowa, or, they can get rolled by 25 points against a team like Ohio State. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like very much like, I don't know what I'm going to expect from this team when they play a team of their same caliber or higher caliber. Are they going to show up?
Yeah. Well, luckily they don't have to, at least yet. They will be playing Purdue. Purdue just beat Northwestern today to advance. That was the first round. So Nebraska got the single bye. They'll play tomorrow at 2 p.m. Ben, anything you're looking for specifically in this matchup from Nebraska, either matchup-wise with Purdue or just overall in how this team's going to perform? Because this is a game, realistically, they should win comfortably and move on. But you can't look ahead to the potential big matchups down the road.
They've got to rebound. They out-rebounded Purdue by a large amount in both their wins. Alexis Markowski in the second matchup almost out-rebounded Purdue by herself. I think she's the X factor in this next game. She's been their safety blanket almost this year. That every time that their offense is kind of stagnant, they know that if they get it to Markowski, that she can get some points pretty consistently. So I think she's a big X factor for them heading forward in the next game and just in the Big Ten tournament as a whole.
Is there anyone on Purdue that you think maybe we should look out for, or maybe a couple players that you really think could challenge Nebraska in this one?
Their leading scorer, she was the leading scorer for them in both games against us, was Abby Ellis. Plays a lot of minutes. Mary Ashley Stevenson, one of the Big Ten freshmen of the year. She plays a lot. They like to play their starters a long time, run their offenses through them. So, I mean, obviously you're always going to game plan for the other team's best player, but I think that's who they should be worrying about.
Yeah, it was the Abby Ellis show tonight in Purdue's. It kind of squeaked past Northwestern. She's averaging 14 points per game, 3.6 rebounds a game. Pretty solid, leads the team. She scored 25 with 10 rebounds tonight. So watch out for her. Obviously, 10 rebounds is always tough to get for any singular player when you're going up against Alexis Markowski. As I alluded to last night, she's like a black hole for rebounds. Another player I was looking at is Janae Terry. She had 16 rebounds against Northwestern. So, Ben, I completely agree with you there in terms of the boards. You're not going to get those numbers against Nebraska if they're up to par. So I think this is definitely a big game for Markowski here.
Yeah, so I know we're saying they can't look ahead, got to do it one game at a time, but looking ahead to the NCAA tournament, how well equipped do you think this Nebraska team is to maybe try to make a run in the Big Ten, not Big Ten tournament, the NCAA tournament, or not even a run, just get the first NCAA tournament win under Amy Williams? How well equipped do you think this Husker team is to do that?
I think they can get that win. I mean, they haven't played a ton of high-level out-of-conference opponents, but they're right there on the 8 and 9 seed and play pretty evenly matched opponent. I think that they can go and get that win. Whenever they play opponents that are right there with them, they've had a great track record against them this season. But then moving on to the next round, they don't really have a super good track record outside of Iowa against those top teams. Yeah. I mean, getting absolutely dominated by Ohio State and Columbus.
Speaking of Ohio State, Nebraska right now would be in the Columbus region for the NCAA tournament. They'd get Alabama, projected to get Alabama right now, even as a 9 seed. They get Alabama as an 8 seed, and then Ohio State the second round.
See, that's
where your tournament comes to an end.
See, the one flaw in the NCAA tournament is that it's better to be a 10 seed than an 8 or a 9. It is.
Which we're seeing now for both men's and women's.
Because it's crazy.
How brutal would that be? 2 9 seeds? Oh. Because you can't play the underdog card, and you don't get an easy opponent.
Because it's like the 10 seed, like, when you think about it, like, oh, there shouldn't be that much difference between the 1 and the 2. There usually is a pretty big difference between the 1 and the 2 seed. Like, there usually is. Like,
especially in women's basketball.
Yeah, especially in women's basketball. Like, the 8 or 9 seed is honestly a curse because, yeah, you won your first round, which if Nebraska just won one NCAA tournament game, either men's or women's for the Huskers, that'd be good year.
Hey,
but
FAU did it last year.
But the
Final Four.
the next round, then got to play number 1. And I feel like, especially in women's basketball, the top teams in women's basketball are just so good. It's just like, it's another level. I feel like in women's basketball, there's not as many upsets because the top teams are just
so dominant.
They're just so dominant. Yeah. So,
and there's no PBA you get a home crowd. I mean, you get a home advantage already on top of already being so dominant.
Yeah.
I mean, Ohio State's going to pack their stadium for that game.
Even
if Nebraska were to advance.
That just seemed, if there was anything close to an unwinnable game for Nebraska, I feel like that would almost be that. Having to play Ohio State in the second round in Columbus.
Ben, what do you think they need to do to improve their seed? I know,
or dampen it.
Or I think it'd be hard to worsen it at this point. I don't think they're going to lose to Purdue. They certainly could. But I guess, what are realistic expectations in the Big Ten tournament, Ben, of getting as a 5 seed running into some juggernauts? Is there a world where they can improve their seed, or do you feel like they're kind of locked into that 8-9 area?
I think if they make it to a semifinal game and end up playing Ohio State, and if they give a valiant effort, take them 3 quarters, maybe even to the 4th, I think that they can improve their seed, especially if they beat a solid Michigan State team to get there.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so tough having to go against you. You think Iowa is the team to beat? They obviously just beat Ohio State in a very important game for Caitlin Clark, clearly.
Right there.
Ohio State's very good as well. And once Iowa doesn't have that home crowd advantage, it's pretty even. Another note to look out for, Boilermakers are going to be without Caitlin Harper, who tore her ACL on senior day after she scored 29 points against Penn State. So second leading scorer, I believe, on the Boilermakers. 11.5 points a game and 4 rebounds. She's a 6th-year senior. So you're losing a veteran presence. You're losing one of your scorers. And her sister, Elena Harper, steps into that starting role now at forward. So she played against Northwestern. Kind of an interesting tidbit there. Ben, do you think that this is Iowa's tournament to lose? Like, is this Caitlin Clark's opportunity to run the table and win out here? Because I think that is kind of what the national media would love. I think we would enjoy it. A lot of Nebraska fans probably don't want to see Iowa win at a high level, but Caitlin Clark going out on top would be an incredible storyline. Is this their tournament to lose and their NCAA tournament to lose?
Yeah, I don't think their seed matters. If they're a 2 seed in the tournament or a 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament, it's Caitlin Clark. And you say that they don't really have a home court advantage in Minneapolis, but Caitlin Clark has fans everywhere.
Right.
She's going to draw in a crowd rooting for her anywhere she goes.
For sure. If you're in Minneapolis and you have nothing going on this weekend, you're taking a trip to the Target Center. I think it's almost more exciting to go watch her than watch the Golden Gophers play, because they just got beat by Indiana, who probably should fire their coach tonight. So this weekend is much more enticing for maybe Minnesota Gopher fans. One last thing. I don't know, Ben, if you saw this storyline at all, but we talked about this last night. Mary Ashley Stevenson obviously wins Big Ten Freshman Player of the Year from the media side, and Natalie Potts, as we know, wins it for the coaches side. They match up now. So one night after we had this discussion, Ben, these two are going to go against each other tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get your thoughts, Ben, on, do you think that Potts was snubbed that, dual award, or is there a world here where Stevenson is deserving of it?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say that she didn't get snubbed. I mean, she was Big Ten Freshman of the Week about half the time, 8 out of 15, I believe. She has slightly better statistics than Stevenson on a way better team. And even if they match up tomorrow and Ashley Stevenson has a better stat line, I think Potts is a more deserving player. I think she's done more for her team than Stevenson has.
Yeah. I mean, Potts has been so good this year. And I know you talked about it last time you were on, Ben, of just how dynamic and what a level she has brought to this team.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I wanted to ask your thoughts on, Ben, we talked about this yesterday as well. Figured I'd get your expertise with how young this team is and bringing in, having Nisley and having Potts, you're going to lose Shelley. Obviously, you have one more year of Markowski. You potentially get Widener back if she can stay healthy, and you bring in Brett Prince.
Mm-hmm.
What's is this do or die for Nebraska to finally get that win, or is this more of a building year? I say building year when you have Josh Shelley in her final season. What do you think the mindset should be going into this postseason? Is this a do or die now, win now, or is there still a lot of optimism going forward with how many young pieces they're going to bring in?
I would not call it do or die. I mean, you lose Shelley this year, but Britt Prince, I've seen her play in person. I don't think there's going to be much of a drop-off at the point guard position for the Huskers next year. I think next year with Markowski as a senior, maybe it's a little bit more do or die. But I think this year, I wouldn't call it that.
It's going to be so exciting to watch her coming in. And I don't think that's a hot take at all. She is so good.
Yeah. I don't think it's do or die for the roster. It might be do or die for Amy Williams if she doesn't get a win this year.
I mean, no, she's got plenty. If you bring in that talented of a player and you have two freshman players,
we'll see.
No, that there's no world where she has to win this tournament game, in my opinion.
I'm not saying she has to. I'm saying each year that ticks by that there's another season without an NCAA tournament win.
But you cannot look at her team next year and not next year would definitely be the season to do it. There's no way you can look after this offseason and be like, we have high expectations going into next season.
Well, yeah.
And as long as there's high expectations for the next season, you got to keep your coach around.
I mean, I'm not saying she should be fired. I'm just saying the clock is going to be ticking.
All right.
Nebraska has not, despite what people think, Nebraska has not been very successful women's basketball under Amy Williams.
Again, I think it just goes back to how bad the men's team is and the comparison there. But speaking of men's, Ben, I know you're a women's basketball beat reporter, but I figured I'd ask you this as well. You think they beat Michigan, lock up the tournament this week, and then move into the Big Ten tournament as a double bye team? Are we talking about Nebraska men's basketball as a double bye team?
I mean, yeah, it's crazy to think about with some of those early Hoiberg teams, but I mean, they're going on the road, which already is another hindrance for the Huskers. And then Michigan gets back Doug McDaniel, who didn't play for them in Lincoln. So I think it's definitely a lot bigger of a challenge, but I still think they get it done. This team just has so much momentum, so many people behind them. I think this starts something special.
Senior night in Ann Arbor? The fans are going to be rowdy.
Maybe not. So one last question before we have to throw it to break in. Before we have to throw it to break, Ben. So who, for the women's basketball side, if you were to have to pick who you think is going to win national championship in the NCAA tournament, what team would you pick?
I'm going to go with South Carolina. They're on that long winning streak. If they match up with Caitlin Clark, she knocked them out last year. They want revenge against her. Dawn Staley, it's almost impossible to bet against her.
Yeah.
So
back-to-back years would be tough to beat South Carolina.
This is so when we were all the national media is saying Iowa. I would rather pick the field who I think is going to win national championship over Iowa. I mean, I think
Iowa's just a flashy pick for people that don't actually watch college basketball.
But then, you got South Carolina, who hasn't lost a game. Stanford, really good team. Ohio State, neck and neck with Iowa. And you go to the number 2 seeds, LSU, UCLA. Like
it's one of the most anticipated NCAA tournaments in a long time. The amount of star power is at the height of the sport right now is incredible. And I'm really excited to watch.
I just wonder about how much Iowa has outside of Caitlin Clark.
Well, I mean, they went to the national championship for a reason. She does a lot, but she doesn't do it all. But if you're taking the field against Iowa, for sure take the field there. South Carolina is so good.
Yeah.
That'd be a fun NCAA tournament if they were to match up on opposite sides. Or a rematch with LSU Iowa would also be incredible for storylines.
But with that, we got to throw it to break. Thank you again, Ben, for joining us on the Iowa VIP line. Next segment, we're going to preview the men's basketball game on Sunday. No, it's quite a ways a bit out, but we're not going to have a show tomorrow and then not going to have a show before that game. So we kind of wanted to touch on that game before the game actually happens. We're not going to have a show before that. So With that, we're going to throw it to break. You're listening to the Daily Nebraskan Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
This is your captain. We are going to be experiencing some slight turbulence. Please fasten your... Oh, hold on. Just got a video of my cat.
Imagine the pilot of an airplane was as confident as you are texting and driving. Seems kind of crazy when you put it like that.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
A team succeeds when they work together. Banking's no different. At UBT, we're in your corner for every financial move you want to make. Your money's backed by a roster of experts who put in the work to know you and your community. So whether you're opening a savings account, buying a home, or planning your future, you always know who to turn to. Working together toward your financial goals. That's a win in our playbook. Union Bank and Trust. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Welcome to Gee, I Love Money, the show for Nebraskans who like their money just a certain way. Our first guest is Ray from North Platte. Ray, how do you like your money?
Well, Alex, I'm old-fashioned. I like my money in neat stacks.
Excellent. Next up is Janet from Columbus. Janet, how do you like your money?
Alex, I like to convert it into pennies and put it in big glass jars.
Interesting. As money enthusiasts, you both must be excited that Cash Blast from the Nebraska Lottery is back. Until April 2nd, buy a 2x2 ticket, enter the voucher number, and you could be one of 7 weekly winners of $5,000 or $500. And if your winning voucher is from a 7-day draw ticket, your prize is doubled. Janet, that might require quite a few glass jars, eh?
Actually, Alex, for amounts that big, I like to use giant inflatable swimming pools stacked in my sunroom.
Outstanding.
2x2 top prize odds 1 in 105,000.
On the block with Strick and Austin.
Now, to tie it back to Nebraska men's basketball, this group has a chance to do something that hasn't been done before.
Yeah.
You know, in making a run in the Big Ten tournament, a serious run, and winning the first NCAA tournament game. But they're not going to get there by doing the same things they've always done. It is on this team to step up and change that narrative. It won't change on its own. Teams won't lay over for you, and that's the mindset shift we haven't consistently seen yet.
Weekdays from 2 to 4 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
24/7 threat monitoring, expert tech support, streamlined communications. Allo has a solution for that. Protect your business with Allo Business. Comprehensive firewall security, Microsoft Teams voice-integrated communications, cybersecurity and IT support managed by experts. From productivity to peace of mind, Allo has a solution for that. Allo means business. Protect your business by visiting allofiber.com/business.
You never think cancer will happen to you. I smoked for over 40 years. My doctor recommended that I get annual lung cancer screening. They were able to catch my cancer at stage 1. It's never too late to quit. Even if you're still smoking, you need to ask your doctor about annual lung cancer screening. Just 30 minutes a year could save your life.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Come see the exciting career opportunities in the world of large ag. Acres, your Nebraska John Deere dealer, is hosting a career fair during our 2024 Ag and Turf Expo. Learn about career opportunities in service, sales, parts, and precision ag, as well as other roles in Acres business support team. Join us at the Sandhills Global Event Center March 6th and 7th or Fauner Park March 21st and 22nd. Go to acres.com/expo24 for details.
Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hello and welcome back to the Daily Nebraskan Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Ben and Joseph still here with you. And this segment, want to preview the men's basketball games coming up on Sunday. Quite a ways bit out, though.
Yeah, I mean, we
want to cover it.
Don't have a show tomorrow because you're off to the luxurious
Oklahoma
vacation spot, Oklahoma City.
It's going to be great.
It'll be fun. We have been going nonstop for about 2 months now.
Yeah, we all need a break.
We do need a break. You're heading to Oklahoma City. I'll be heading to Florida the next week. Couple of our writers are headed to the Big Ten tournament.
That's going to be
out
fun.
up in Minnesota. So a nice break for us. I say a break. I'm still going to be editing every basketball story that comes in. So we got a weekend of women's basketball and a weekend of men's basketball.
At least you can do that from the comfort of your
I
home.
can do that from the comfort of the cabana in Florida. That's where I'll be doing that.
That'll be great.
But yeah, you got one last game, one more before the Big Ten tournament. You got to think Nebraska is a lock for the NCAA tournament at this point.
They are.
And you just got to take care of Michigan. There's not too much. Honestly, there's just not too much analysis to be put into this game. This is just a game. You're better than them. It's the last game of the season. You got to be ready to move on in not as quick of a turnaround as you're used to going into a Big Ten tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Win the game, get a double bye, lock up your seed, win a couple games in the Big Ten tournament, and improve off that 9 spot. Like we talked in the first segment, don't want to be on that 9 spot.
I mean, and if anything, if Nebraska would drop Michigan, lose their first game in the Big Ten tournament, maybe they drop to the 10 seed and that'd be better. Maybe.
That's actually pretty true. I think they'd much rather be a 7.
Well, yeah. But if you can't reach that 7, they're going to have to make a run in the Big Ten tournament if they're going to want to reach 7.
Yeah, which is going to be hard because they're going to be potentially, even if they lose to Michigan, a double bye team. So Michigan State beats Northwestern on senior night. Northwestern, just a weird season for them. They have kind of fallen off over the last couple weeks. Injuries have really hurt them.
Yeah.
With Tyberry going out for the season, Langborg has been hurt.
Yeah.
And then tonight, I believe they scored 49 points.
I really liked Northwestern a couple weeks ago. I liked them more than Nebraska. But now, just with all the injuries, it's
Tyberry's a huge loss. I mean, he really was part of that identity.
When we look at all the teams that have a chance to win a game in the NCAA tournament for Big Ten, Purdue, Illinois, maybe Nebraska, Wisconsin looks terrible.
Yeah.
Northwestern doesn't look good because of all the injuries. Michigan State, maybe. Again,
don't count out Michigan State.
This is the first year I'm going to. I just don't think they're very
I
good.
think that's going to come back to bite you. I think it's unless they're a 9 or 8 seed, but
I can't. So when we have our next show, brackets should be set.
When we have our next show, it'll be after Selection Sunday, which is crazy that we're that far away right now.
Yeah, so I think that show we need to do preview what our picks are going to be for the tournament
for sure.
It's because, and I'm telling you right now, I know it's going to depend on matchup, but I probably going to have Michigan State losing first round.
First round as an 8 or 9 would be tough for me. I think.
I see every year because I know it's Michigan State. I never had them losing first round. This is the year. I'm finally going to do it. This is the year. But still,
I don't know if this is the year to do it, man. I don't know.
I just
they looked inspired tonight on senior night. They looked inspired.
Every team's inspired on senior night besides Michigan.
They only scored 53 points, but they held Northwestern to 49 points. Yeah, Northwestern has just, when they were already so reliant on their starting 5 to lose Barry and then lose Lagborg for a portion of the season. Now you're pretty much down to just Barnhizer, Bowie, and Martinelli. There's just no bench production. There's literally no bench production. They got 2 points off the bench tonight. 2. And they only played one guy more than 5 minutes off the bench. So it's hard to analyze them. I think they're going to be a 9 seed. Potentially a 10 at this point. I think Michigan State's going to be a 9 seed. I think Nebraska has a solid chance to be a 7. But
they're gonna have to win probably 2 games of the Big Ten tournament to do that.
I think it depends on the matchup. Because if you're the 3 seed, then you'd have to beat Illinois. Are we really saying the 3rd best team in the Big Ten is a 9 or 8 seed?
Yes, the Big Ten's not that good. I'm sorry if I'm bursting anybody's bubble. The Big Ten's not that good, and it's been shown in recent history.
But a lot of conferences are not having a great year.
I know.
ACC is just not having a great year either. So, I mean, number 3 team in the Big Ten as an 8-9 seed would be a hard sell for me. Depends on what Nebraska does in the Big Ten tournament, of course. But I don't know, man. I'm not going to count on Michigan State ever.
Never.
So I kind of got a little PTSD tonight watching Michigan State Northwestern. Very emotional night. Steven Izzo was interviewed post game. Honestly, he was tearing up, and it got to me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. He has been there for 5 years, and that culture is such a special culture at Michigan State. Something that a lot of programs should try to emulate. But last time we saw a long-tenured, fan favorite Spartan. This time it was Tyson Walker. He's been there 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Fan favorite, leader of the team. Last time we saw one of those type of guys kiss the floor on senior night, as they do out at the Breslin Center, where they don't lose on senior night, was Cassius Winston. Now, I don't know if you watch much Cassius Winston. This was 4 years ago.
I did.
And a couple weeks later, not even weeks, I think it was like a week, because it would have been the day after the Big Ten tournament finished. The NCAA tournament got canceled.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a little PTSD tonight. I'm not going to lie. 4 years, the cycle of things.
Can we travel back to 2022? How did we deal with no NCAA tournament in March?
There was plenty of other news to be discussed.
How did we do it? Doesn't COVID seem just like, I don't even really remember it anymore, to be honest.
I mean, I'm a junior in college and I was a junior in high school. So it's that 4 year, I've gone through an entire college long period between the time that tournament got canceled. That tournament was going to be a fun one, though. So, and Michigan State, a lot of Michigan State fans believe that they were going to win that. I don't think they were going to, but Cassius Winston was a really fun player to watch. So I got some PTSD tonight watching Tyson Walker kiss the floor at the Breslin Center, which is great environment, great last game for them. Only scored 53 points.
Yeah.
But you beat Northwestern, and their tournament spot is all but locked up as well. The team across the state, I say across the state, pretty close, from East Lansing, is in Ann Arbor. And they are going to welcome Nebraska on Sunday for the season finale. Nebraska gets a whole week off to prepare for the mighty juggernaut that is Michigan basketball.
The mighty juggernaut.
And I think Nebraska's going to win this game handily.
See, the only thing that worries me is it's quote unquote on the road. And Nebraska still just hasn't been that good on the road. But it's Michigan. Come on.
It's
I know if Nebraska loses this game, it's not going to hurt them too much. But it's just the fact that it would be
it'll hurt. It's Michigan's bad. Michigan's really, really bad.
But it's not going to hurt in the fact that, Nebraska's then going to be on the bubble or anything. Nebraska's pretty much in the tournament. And
I want to say for sure, but you can't say that. You can't say it.
Joseph, I'm right here saying it. They're a tournament team. You can't tell me they're not a tournament team.
I would not tell you that.
Sorry. I'll phrase it different. There is no one on the planet Earth that can tell me otherwise. They're a tournament team.
I bet you there are some people that would love to leave Nebraska out of the tournament.
And that's just out of spite.
I'm just saying, I would never put it past Nebraska to have some crazy stuff happen and they get left on the bubble, or they have to play the first four in or something. Michigan's won one game since January 15th.
Yeah, so
they're bad.
Nebraska should easily win this. See, if Nebraska loses, they're still probably going to be fine. Going to make tournament. But
not the way you want to go into the Big Ten tournament.
It's not the way you want to do that. And also, it would just leave a bad taste in not only every mouth of the player on that on the team, it's going to leave a bad taste in everyone's mouth. This is just not. Do you just know how low the energy would be heading into the Big Ten tournament if Nebraska lost to
especially
Michigan?
If you go lost in the Big Ten tournament in the first round, because it's not an easy matchup, and you're if you get the double bye still, because there's a good chance they do, even if they lose, because now that Northwestern and Wisconsin have had terrible weeks, it's just allowed Nebraska to get up in that seed without really even doing anything. They beat Rutgers.
So it's just Yeah, it'd be tough. Like, we saw how Husker fans overreacted when Nebraska lost to Ohio State. I couldn't even imagine the reaction when Nebraska loses to Michigan. Like, there were Husker, like, when me and Harrison did the post game after the Ohio State game, there's people texting in saying this isn't a tournament team. I'm just like, whatever. Overreact. And then they beat, and then
Ohio State is really good.
I don't want to say really good, but they're good.
Over the last month, since they fired Chris Holtmann, they have been really good. That's almost a good loss at this point. Yeah. Which brings me to my point about Michigan. So they beat Wisconsin about a month ago, lost 7 straight since. Haven't lost by less than 12 over that stretch. Lost to Rutgers by 30. Lost multiple games by 20-plus points. Rutgers by 30, Ben. Rutgers by 30.
Why are we even talking about Michigan?
Because Nebraska plays them, and we have 5 days to talk about this game because we have a whole week off with no Nebraska basketball content.
They're just so bad. Michigan's just so bad.
So, since they got dominated at PBA a month ago, haven't lost by less than 12 since. Juwan Howard has to be gone, and there is a serious talk around the university that Ward Manuel, the AD, is going to keep Juwan Howard. As someone who grew up watching Michigan basketball during the John Beilein days, this program is in the pits, and it's embarrassing. Like, they are playing at a level that would not even be tolerated at Nebraska with how terrible Nebraska's history is, with how little the Huskers have done over, the history of this program. Michigan basketball is playing at a point where fans from Nebraska would be furious. Like, they're playing to a point where Hoiberg would be gone if they played like this next season. It's embarrassing. They are the laughing stock of the Big Ten right now.
Yeah.
And I want to get your thoughts on this. So first, do you think Juwan Howard should be gone?
Yes. Not only just because of the product on the court, there's also been some other things that have been going on behind the scenes.
Not exactly a shining star off the court.
Yes.
And he is very much Scott Frost. Very much Scott Frost. And I think they're going to make the mistake of giving him one more year to fix it.
That's what Nebraska did with Scott Frost.
And fire him in midseason. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen with Juwan Howard.
I love that analogy, Joseph.
Because he is very much golden child come home. A lot of hype, a lot of potential. The only benefit is he was coming off of one of the greatest Michigan basketball coaches ever. So he was able to, carry off of John Beilein's back a little bit. But
Joseph, sorry to cut you off, but we had a caller come in, and he wanted to talk about Caitlin Clark, and he had some questions he wanted to ask us. So I kind of wanted to bring in the first caller, first listener caller ever on the Daily Nebraskan show. Sean, do we got you, Sean?
Yes, sir.
All right, Sean. So you were wanting to ask us a question about Caitlin Clark. What do you got for us, Clark? Sean?
I got a few statements more than anything. So I did some research last night, and I don't have the paperwork in front of me. I apologize. I'm driving.
No, you're good.
There is 2 or 3 NAIA scorers that are still above Caitlin Clark. So there's that, and then I did some research back to 86 when they adopted the 3-point line. If you take all the 3-pointers she's made or anybody else has made, she drops to 4th all time on the women's and 7th overall.
Yeah, I saw this. I can't remember exactly the names, but there was a narrative of that she had, there was a record that she passed on the same night that she broke Pete Maravich's all-time scoring record. She had also broken another record from NAIA days. It's just so tough with the way that basketball eras are compared. Like we do this in the NBA all the time.
I hate it.
Right.
I hate it.
But I mean, kudos to her for breaking the record. I love watching history get broken. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has to be contextualized, right? Like, this is an era of
more
scoring, and there's kind of been this narrative of, from some other media members of like, oh, she needed it to do this in this era. Well, we can also look at it and say, well, she comes back for a fifth year if she wanted to, and those records are never getting broken in history.
Yeah.
So it's definitely hard to compare, but I think just the way that she has, even regardless of the production on the court, the way that she has made headlines and storylines throughout the season, it's like a farewell tour for like an NBA star. Like every arena sold out, every frontline page news about her. People want to see her, and it doesn't matter what she scores, what record she breaks.
Yeah.
Breaks all-time records here, there. People want to show up and watch.
Right.
Yeah.
I just thought it would be a good tidbit of information. I didn't know if y'all knew about that, so I just thought I'd call in on that.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, Sean, for calling in. Take care.
Have a good night.
Yep, you too. So I thought that was interesting. He wanted to call in, so I thought I'd do that.
Hey, it's 11:41 at night.
Hey,
so.
I know. I didn't want to I wanted to hear his thoughts. I want to know what he had to say because I was interested.
We appreciate calls.
No,
and
I did. That was the first phone, random viewer phone call we did. So
I thought there was those were some stream comments. I think
we had stream,
back on that last Saturday, the first Saturday we did.
Yeah,
that one was
the first time I had someone calling. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Sean, once again. So back to what we were talking about before we got off track, because we love getting off track here. Michigan. We were talking about Juwan Harris.
We were just talking about how bad they were. Yeah.
But there's a lot we could go into.
But yeah, definitely Scott Frost-esque off the court.
I love
concerns.
Yeah.
Off the court concerns for sure. I don't think Scott Frost ever punched anyone on the court.
Not that we've heard of.
Or on the field. So hopefully that never happened. He's got to be gone. And I think they're going to give him another year. And I think they're going to have to reevaluate after mid-season. And then they're going to have to fire him because we saw what happened at Ohio State.
I don't get...
You fire your coach and you're automatically one of the better teams in the Big Ten. It's insane.
I mean, that's not how it always works. But I see your point. The only thing that is just weird to me is why is Michigan so what connection do they feel they have with Juwan Howard for why they think they need to keep him? For Nebraska, it's Scott Frost, one of the best players for Nebraska.
Juwan Howard has just so much history in the program, being part of the Fab Five and being kind of a golden child. I wouldn't say in the same way.
It's not
with
anywhere
Scott Frost.
in the same way. And this is Michigan basketball. How are they tolerating being this poor?
I'll say this. I think Nebraska football is clearly a bigger deal to Nebraska football fans than Michigan basketball is to Michigan basketball fans.
Yes. Well, it's just because that's Husker fans. Michigan men's basketball has been really good, though.
Right. But my point is they still have a very high reverence for Juwan Howard. Like before the last couple seasons, he was very respected and it was a very exciting hire. And they had some really good seasons kind of with the help of John Beeline's recruits, though. Like once Livers and Dickinson were gone and you had a couple one and done guys.
Wagner.
Yeah. That's funny. But like Caleb Houston was a one and done guy. His son was a one and done guy. Once these guys are kind of out of there and you just have a down season. My other question to you, though, the academic standards at some of these universities. I get Michigan is a great academic university.
Yeah, better than Nebraska.
100%. Nebraska is by far the worst academic institution in the Big Ten.
Are they actually the worst?
Oh, yeah. It's saying a lot because
I didn't think they were actually the worst. I knew they were towards the bottom.
It's a big Big 12 school. Like that is what Nebraska is at its core, is a Big 12 school. They have taken leaps and bounds to catch up with the rest of the Big Ten. But the Big Ten is some of the most historic, great universities in the country. Now that you're adding UCLA, USC, Oregon, Washington, who are all very good academic schools as well. I don't say Nebraska is like way far comparably, but I believe it's Nebraska and Iowa are clearly the bottom two. I mean, you look at schools like Rutgers and Maryland and Michigan and Northwestern. Yeah. So anyway, but first this offseason, you have a situation where Caleb Love wants to come to Michigan from North Carolina. He's not able to because his credits don't transfer, doesn't reach the academic standards. Then you have a situation where Doug McDaniel is suspended for, I believe it was 6. It might have ended up being more road games in the middle of the season, during the stretch of the season where you have to be winning games if you want to be taken seriously as a Big Ten program. And he gets suspended for academic reasons as well. Not saying that athletes shouldn't be held to academic standards, but you can't expect to be taken seriously when you could have had Caleb Love and Doug McDaniels for a full season together if your academics were not getting in the way of your athletic success. So
imagine Nebraska. Okay, I know this is crazy, but let's think about it. Imagine if Dylan Raiola didn't have a high enough GPA to be able to come to Nebraska.
You can't play road games.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry.
Which is even dumber. Like the dumbest suspension ever. I'm sorry. This is your best player by far.
Okay, so imagine
he's averaging 16.5 points per game. So 4 rebounds, 4.5 assists. You're like, yeah, well, you can't play road games for the month of February.
Michigan basketball is a mess. But could you just imagine, like, what would Husker fans do if it was like, oh, Raiola wants to come to Nebraska, but he doesn't have a high enough GPA, so he can't.
I guess that's what the difference between the Michigan education and the Nebraska education is.
I think Nebraska, but like there's no way he could have had a 1 GPA and they would have found a way to get him to Nebraska.
I'm sure he has a great GPA though. It seems
no,
like he's
I'm not saying he doesn't.
I'm just
saying
very well put together young man. But yeah, I mean, we see it with like teams like Northwestern and Stanford with football. It's like it's so hard to compete when you're taking your group of players that you could potentially recruit from and shrinking that pool by like 90% because of your academic restrictions.
I mean, isn't that just things though that like is out of the coach's control too?
No, it's out of the coach's control, but not with Doug McDaniel. I don't know the whole situation. I believe if I remember correctly, that was a coaching decision because like there's no way the university would just step in and say road games only, right?
No, probably. I mean, that just
like, sorry, man, you're gonna have to study while your team's in, East Lansing or in Champaign. You just got to sit and study. It's ridiculous.
It's like an in-school suspension.
Completely ridiculous season from Michigan basketball. The culture of that team is so poor right now. And if Nebraska were to lose them, I would be seriously concerned because of how. I mean, this team's got to just be ready to be done.
I wouldn't be concerned that like their season's at risk. Not make the tournament.
No.
But like it would just bring the whole mood down.
This team is completely they moved on from the season.
We're just gonna put it blunt. They're just not good. And I think everyone knows that. But with that, we gotta throw it to break. We come back. One last segment. We're gonna touch on NFL, specifically the Bills.
The Bills, your favorite team.
My favorite team. I'm a Dolphins fan. My favorite team. So because they had some cuts, and
they cut their whole roster.
If you're not on the stream, I'm smiling.
They cut their entire roster today.
Yeah. Besides Josh Allen. So with that, we got to throw it to break. You're listening to the Daily Nebraskan Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Alcohol has strained our relationship. Drinking too much can cause harm to friends, family members, and loved ones. By drinking less, we will save our relationship. If you or a loved one is looking for help, find a treatment facility near you at findtreatment.gov. For immediate support, call, text, or chat 988.
Brought to you by Nebraska DHHS in partnership with SAMHSA.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide. My service never stops.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
The Mill Coffee and Tea, formerly with only 4 Lincoln locations. Guess what?
What?
There's 5 Lincoln locations now. Oh my gosh. That's 25% more Lincoln locations than there used to be. Can you even imagine a world where there's only 4 Lincoln Mill locations? Feels like ages ago. We were all so young then. The Mill on 11th. located right alongside 93.7 The Ticket Studios, 1040 O Street.
Your child was embarrassed when you arrived at their basketball game. 75% of parents or guardians report current alcohol use. Drinking alcohol can cause harm to children and loved ones. By drinking less, your child will be excited to see you at their basketball game. If you or a loved one is looking for help, find a treatment facility near you at findtreatment.gov. For immediate support, call, text, or chat 988.
Brought to you by Nebraska DHHS in partnership with SAMHSA.
Hi, this is Pastor Tom. Did you know there's a place kids can seek out help when they're away from home and something goes wrong? They find themselves in a difficult spot or even a dangerous situation. Maybe another child is bullying them or a stranger is following them. Perhaps on a date and things just go bad. In Lincoln, here's where they can find help. It's called Safe Place. Safe Place is a national program for children taking place in thousands of cities across the United States. The People's City Mission is sponsoring this program in our community and has set up a number of businesses, fire stations, schools, and nonprofits around the city to become safe locations where kids can seek out help. They just need to look for the big yellow sign that says Safe Place on it. Then go inside and ask for help. We will be quickly connected to them and ensure they make it back home or to whatever resources are needed. If you'd like to find out more about Safe Place and ways in which you can get involved, just go to pcmlincoln.org. Remember, when we all do a little, we change a lot.
On the Block with Strick and Austin.
Now, to tie it back to Nebraska men's basketball, this group has a chance to do something that hasn't been done before.
Yeah.
You know, in making a run in the Big Ten tournament, a serious run, in winning the first NCAA tournament game, but they're not going to get there by doing the same things they've always done. It is on this team to step up and change that narrative. It won't change on its own. Teams won't lay over for you, and that's the mindset shift we haven't consistently seen yet.
Weekdays from 2 to 4 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Go hog wild, pit barbecue.
It's $5.99 barbecue time. Hurry to Hog Wild for a complete barbecue meal that's only $5.99. Get a one-meat sandwich loaded with our award-winning barbecue, plus your choice of a classic side and drink for just $5.99. Upgrade your sandwich to beef brisket for just $1 more. Join us for lunch or dinner in Lincoln at 3210 Cornhusker Highway. Order online at gohogwild.com.
But don't be late, we close at 8.
Back to The Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hello and welcome back to the Dayway Nebraskan show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. One last segment. Ben and Joseph, we're going to be here for about 4 or 5 more minutes, then we're going to be out of here. We're going to wrap up the show, NFL talk, specifically the Bills, because they cut the big names, Tre'Davious White and Jordan Poyer.
And Mitch Morse.
Yeah.
So
why not Von Miller? That was the first thing. I was like, why didn't Von Miller get cut?
I'm guessing there's some less of a cap issue or maybe more of a cap issue. But you think this is a good thing?
As a Dolphins fan,
as a Dolphins fan, you think this hurts the Bills, or is this the Bills being smart and saying these guys are old? They're not really going to help us in the future anyway.
How could this help them? Like, it's not like, oh, we cut these players, now we can go sign this, and this. It's, oh, we cut them because we had to cut them, and we're going to barely be under the cap.
I just think the cap is a myth. I think the cap is...
It is a myth.
Largely a myth. The more I look at it, Chargers are in, a cap mess, right? The more I look at it, you make a couple moves here, a couple cuts there. You cut a Joey Bosa or Khalil Mack.
That's what I'm saying.
You get rid of a Mike Williams.
That's what I'm saying. It is a myth because you could easily get under it every single season. It's just you got to cut big names, and that's what the Bills have.
You got to cut big names, but do you got to? I mean, I'm not enough of a Bills fan to really know how valuable these guys are to a team.
They were former All-Pros.
Wasn't
that far away. Wasn't that long ago. Jordan Poyer has dealt with some injuries.
It's a new era in Buffalo, man.
An era where they're not going to be as good. An era where they're not going to be as good.
I think they're probably going to move off Stephon Diggs as well. That's my opinion.
And then I will, if that happens, I will really be jumping up and down.
All right.
Because it's like Josh Allen isn't Patrick Mahomes. He's not. I don't think Josh Allen's going to be able to carry the Bills the same way that Patrick Mahomes can without a wide receiver core.
I think I disagree.
If you take Stephon Diggs off this roster, who's he going to throw to?
He doesn't need to throw. He can just run it.
And we've seen how well that's worked for Lamar Jackson.
Still win the division.
That would be good. They're not going to be great.
I don't think they're going to win a Super Bowl.
I'm not
they've
saying
already missed their Super Bowl window.
I'm not going to be like, oh, they're not a playoff team anymore. Obviously, they're still a playoff team. Probably.
Yeah. So
but I'm saying like the pecking order in the AFC East and the AFC, it's going to be changing.
You can convince yourself of that all you want.
They're no longer
but
a juggernaut.
This should have been the year that they weren't the division winners. And somehow, I don't even know how it was mathematically possible. I'm pretty sure the Dolphins had like, what, a 4-game lead like mid-November?
They just decided to throw every game.
That was one of the biggest collapses I've ever seen in my life. And going into that last game, did you have any confidence that they were going to win that game?
No.
Somehow the Bills pulled that off.
See,
so they restructured Miller's contract. So they saved $8.5 million from restructuring Von Miller, make all those cuts, get under the cap.
That's what I'm saying. But that's a
DeMar Hamlin. Get a little of this. Okay, maybe this is a little more intense than I thought. DeMar Hamlin and Kendall Williamson are the only other safeties under contract. DeMar Hamlin's gonna have a starting job.
No, he won't.
He's gonna have a starting job.
They're gonna draft people and they're gonna sign some people. There ain't no way.
They're also planning to restructure Rasul Douglas.
See, this is what I'm saying. The Bills, I'm sorry, like losing these kind of top, like the Dolphins had to cut Xavier Howard. That's gonna hurt.
Maybe I'm just so jaded by my quote unquote big name players that are on my team. It's like we'd probably be better off if we cut Joey Bosa.
Don't know.
Joey Bosa gets so many penalties it doesn't even matter.
When Jalen Ramsey came back to the Dolphins after his injury, the Dolphins defense has completely changed. Like these star players make a huge difference in the secondary. They do.
Well, they signed Mitch Trubisky, so maybe that was what they needed to save some.
There we go.
Some cap space for
Mitch, not one of the biggest busts of recent history for quarterbacks.
Just a terrible. Speaking of terrible trades, I wanted to ask you this real quick before we finish up.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about Russell Wilson deal yesterday, and I was thinking about some really bad trades.
Okay,
and that trade is really bad, but the DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson trade, really, really bad. And then before our time, but the Herschel Walker trade was like Russell Wilson times 2.
Oh, man.
They traded like 10 players, 3 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks for one player that they got 2 seasons out of. Literally the exact same thing as Russell Wilson, except it was a running back. What a different day and age there.
Yeah, that's when running backs actually meant something to a lot of teams.
I also saw some narrative that Drake May is not even top 5 quarterbacks in this class right now from a couple quote-unquote NFL analysts.
People are just yapping. I'm sorry.
Draft season is so funny. No one has any idea what they're talking about.
It's funny. Hey, there, you know what? These are the same people that were saying Justin Fields was a terrible quarterback.
Well,
and
I
think
agree with them.
How dare you? He's not amazing, but he's not the problem in Chicago.
All right. Well, when Caleb Williams goes to the playoffs in his second year, we'll know.
You're funny. You think okay? So let me see if I'm hearing this correctly, Joseph. If the Bears draft Caleb Williams this year,
they will be in the playoffs by 2 years. In 2 years.
Okay, that's a big change. You're saying this next year, they're not going to make playoffs this next year.
I think within 2-year period. I don't think they'll do it as rookie year, but I think they could do it as rookie year.
I think it's a mistake, man.
All right.
I think it's a mistake.
Well, it wouldn't be as big of a mistake as taking JJ McCarthy, and I love the guy, over Drake May. That would be a big mistake.
The Bears could trade down, get more draft capital, build an actual offensive line, give Justin Fields some actual weapons, and this team could be good.
I've seen enough of Justin Fields.
Really?
I watched Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow behind terrible offensive lines, and immediately you were like, those guys are future Hall of Famers. You don't see that with Justin Fields. I'm sorry. Caleb Williams all day.
All right. Well, I guess we'll end on that. Thank you for listening to the Dan Wayne Nebraskan Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. We'll be back, not next week, the week after.
Oh, long break. Peace.
93.7 The Ticket is proud to provide listeners with daily opportunities to win contests and prizes on our airwaves, and would like to take this opportunity to remind you of a couple rules. All participants must be 21 or older and must wait 30 days after winning a prize before participating in another contest. Once you win,